Hello, my name is Keith Jackson, and I am the Dean of the College of Creative Arts at WVU. In a normal year, any other year, we pleasure in bringing teachers, scholars, and artists to the Lilly, Valerie, and William Kennedy Creative Arts Center to work with our students and for our community. But 2020 is not like a normal year in anybody's eyes. Here at the College of Creative Arts, we've learned to adapt and bring great teachers, scholars, and artists to our students in the community with a new series, the Pandemic Proof Artist Series. Now, I would like to thank our partners in this endeavor, the Reed College of Media and Dean Diana Martinelli, and WVU Career Services Director David Durham for the help in bringing this idea to fruition. There have been a lot of people behind the scenes throughout this endeavor, and they've really made this possible. These people include Shannon Cunningham from the Reed College of Media, Julie Black from the Teaching Learning Commons, and Octavia Spriggs from the College of Creative Arts. Finally, to start a new endeavor that involves multiple partners at a major university like ours is truly amazing. To do so during a global pandemic, astounding. So I would like to thank and introduce the driving force behind the Pandemic Proof Artist Series, the Assistant Dean of the College of Creative Arts, Michaela Myers.
Thank you so much, Dean Jackson, and welcome to our final presentation this fall in the Pandemic Proof Artist Series. My name is Michaela Myers, and I serve as the Assistant Dean of Student Artistic Achievement at West Virginia University's College of Creative Arts. Throughout this series, we have heard from a rock violinist, a ceramic artist, and one of the world's foremost podcasters. And from each of these artists, we hope that our students and all audience members have found inspiration and hope from our presenters' ingenuity and creativity. And if you found yourself wondering, what have the dancers been up to for the past 7 months? Well, tonight, that question will be answered. While this is a webinar format presentation, you can ask questions through the Q&A on your Zoom screen. We will try to get to as many of them as possible later in the evening. Tonight, we are so pleased to have with us Angela Harris, who is the founding Executive Artistic Director of Atlanta's Dance Canvas. Angela has choreographed for professional ballet companies and schools across the country. And tonight, Angela will be sharing her experiences of continuing to choreograph productions during this pandemic. And to host this evening's presentation, I'd like to introduce two of our wonderful faculty members in the School of Theater and Dance. Maureen Kadar is a teaching assistant professor of dance. Along with teaching dance and working as a professional choreographer, Professor Kadar is also a certified yoga and anti-gravity yoga instructor. Welcome, Maureen.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Great. Thank you, Maureen. And General Hambrick is an associate professor of dance and musical theater. Professor Hambrick has studied dance at the American Ballet Theater, the Dance Theater of Harlem, and the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater. Hi, General.
Hello, Michaela, and welcome, Angela. Glad you could join us tonight.
Great. Thank you so much, General. All right. Now, joining us from Atlanta, Georgia, it is my great pleasure to introduce Angela Harris.
Hi, Michaela, and thank you for having me. It has been such a wonderful day. I had an opportunity to speak with the students within the dance department today and discuss my life and my pandemic-proof practices as a dance artist. And so tonight, I'm really excited to be here with you all to talk a little bit about my other hat that I wear. In addition to being a practicing choreographer, I am the Executive Artistic Director of Dance Canvas, which is an organization in Atlanta that focuses on providing opportunities to emerging professional choreographers and youth in our community. Tonight, I am gonna just give you a brief kind of overview of what we've had to overcome in terms of show cancellations and re-envisioning what dance and performing arts looks like now that we are in the midst of a pandemic. And then to think about what it looks like after, or at least the near future that we are about to go into. So I am going to share my screen now with you and just talk a little bit to you about how life has been looking for me and Dance Canvas, give you a little bit more insight into some of the steps that we took. So my presentation tonight is called When the Curtain Goes Down, an Executive Director's Guide to Producing a Season During a Pandemic and Not Go Crazy While Doing It. I think that's key because the sanity of navigating through something like this is real. And so a little bit more about me so that you can kind of know why I started Dance Canvas and why this is a passion project of mine as well. I am a former professional ballet dancer. I danced professionally with Columbia City Ballet, Urban Ballet Theater in New York City, and the Georgia Ballet here in Atlanta. And I've also performed for musical theater productions regionally and choreographed for ballet schools and companies across the country, as well as musical theater productions. And I am currently a teacher and teach at DeKalb School of the Arts, and I'm on faculty at Emory University and Academy of Ballet in Atlanta. But one of the things that has been a driving passion of mine is choreography. I knew from a very young age that I wanted to choreograph professionally. That's where my path was going. And as I was about to start my professional career in ballet, I realized that the path to becoming a professional choreographer, and especially a professional ballet choreographer, was a challenging one. There wasn't really an entry path into a career as a professional choreographer. You have to be affiliated with professional companies or artistic directors who want to take a chance on an emerging voice. And producing a show as a young artist is very expensive. And I realized that I couldn't be the only one in that position. So in 2008, I founded Dance Canvas in Atlanta. And Dance Canvas's mission is to provide opportunities and venues to increase the awareness of professional dance in Atlanta. Our vision is to become a place for the next generation of choreographic voices to develop work and be presented, and create interactive ways and relatable ways for the community to get involved with professional dance. We do this through 3 major program areas, which is our Choreographer Career Development Program, our outreach for youth, and audience engagement. This picture here is actually from one of our signature events called Party for Art. It's an outdoor performance that's free to the public, and it's actually a free day of dance for the community where people can come and take classes all day long, and then they get to see a performance at the end of the evening. We actually haven't done this particular one in 3 years. But as you'll hear later on in this presentation, this is one that's going to be coming back soon, since now we have to be very creative in how we present dance and performances in general. So about Dance Canvas, each year we put out a call for choreographers, emerging professional choreographers who are in need of a platform to present their work. We provide them with space and to rehearse. We handle all the marketing and promotion for their piece. We give them feedback on their work throughout the time that they're with us. We provide them with workshops, lighting design and costuming and marketing, and bring in consultants to help them navigate through those kind of things that help them out to self-promote as they leave us and go off to become choreographers in this field. The general length of our process is about 6 to 7 months. They start with us, and then the final performance is in March. And so these pictures that you are seeing here are of some of the choreographers that we have worked with in the past. The picture over here is from Jewel Lane, who is an Atlanta-based choreographer, but originally he worked with us back in, I believe, 2009 or 10, and he has recently gone on to set work on Alvin Ailey's second company. G.R. Godley is a New York-based choreographer, and he is doing fabulous things in the city. We have Robert Mason, whose piece Hunger really touched audiences. This was back from our very first season in 2008. And then Adam McKinney, who also is a New York-based choreographer. Our choreographers get to work in studios that we have partnerships with, and we provide them with free studio space or extremely discounted space. And we come in and give them choreographic feedback and open their rehearsals for outside feedback as well. And then our choreographers present their work on stage. And this is from Tracy Voigt's piece. She was a dancer and the dance rehearsal director at Philadelphia for a while, and she's now based in Atlanta. We have Paper Doll Militia, who is an aerial dance company, and Lonnie Davis, who's an Atlanta-based choreographer in these two pictures. In addition to the work that we do with our choreographers, we also have a big youth program and outreach program that works with the City of Atlanta's Office of Cultural Affairs and Department of Recreation, where we bring in guest choreographers and guest teachers from across the country. We have Jaylon Lambert, who was in the Fela National Tour, and you can see on the bottom there are the Rockettes that came in and did a workshop with our students as well. And these are students that come to after-school programs within the City of Atlanta's Centers of Hope. We also do some big audience engagement initiatives where we're really trying to show our community that dance is a profession and that it's important to support working artists in our community. And so we open up all of our workshops to the Atlanta community for free. This is one of the workshops we facilitated with choreographer Kyle Abraham. And this was in partnership with the Rialto Center for the Arts. And Kyle came in and offered the community a free workshop and actually a Q&A session with him as well when he was here in Atlanta performing. And then we do some fun outdoor, again, engagement activities. This is from that Party for Art event that I was talking about a little earlier, where we kind of bring the community together surrounded by dance. And dance is at the heart of it all. Dance as community building. Yeah, but March 14th, 2020, it hit hard. Our performances were set for March 20th and 21st, and we had spent 6 months working with the 8 choreographers that we selected for this performance series. And we were heading into the theater for Tech Week when we got the call that everything was shutting down. And at the time, we postponed our show, and all we could put up is save the date. But we didn't have a date. We didn't know what was next. We didn't know what was on the horizon. I love this picture of choreographer Dana Woodruff's piece, Vector, because this is really how I felt. Like I was being thrown into some unknown space and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do next. I had a moment of not having any answers or knowing where to go. And so what now was kind of where I was. And I'm gonna unshare my screen for a second. And the thing that I had to kind of reconcile with was that this pandemic was going to impact us hard. We had our performance canceled, which was slated to reach about 800 audience members. 11 schools come in for our partner performances, reaching approximately 400 students. Our high school, we had a high school dance festival that we helped facilitate for one of our counties here in Metro Atlanta, and that reaches 500 students, and that was canceled. We had master classes scheduled at 6 schools. That was canceled. We had those after school programs in the Centers of Hope canceled. We have a summer program that works with high school and college age students to provide career building skills in dance called DC Next. And this was actually our 10th anniversary of our DC Next program and canceled. We had a commission performance that was on the books and 2 choreographers slated to go to that, canceled. And we were actually about to do a new initiative, a new summer season that was, we were gonna hire 8 dancers to be part of this ensemble for the summer. It was an 8-week summer contract that we were gonna do, and we were gonna have 2 choreographers work with those dancers for 8 weeks, and we kind of put pause on that, and I don't know if that particular program is gonna come back at all. And so what happened was everything paused for me. I was talking to the students earlier, and I told them that I actually had to take a really serious pause. I don't think I did anything for about 6 weeks because we had spent 6 months building up to this major performance series, and then it shut down. And I didn't know what to do next. A lot of people were going online and taking their programs online. And for Dance Canvas, the challenge was a couple of things. The first one is that one of our philosophies is that we do not retain the rights to the work of the choreographers when they create it with us. The sole rights of those works remain with the choreographers. And so we didn't have the right to put up any of their work without basically compensating them for their work and hiring them back. So we had to figure out if that was something we were gonna do, how to pay for it. And then secondly, I wanted to make sure that we weren't being reactive. Like I wanted it to be very mission driven, anything that we did. I didn't want to just, hop online with our performance that we had just for the sake of doing something or going online. I really wanted to think about why I was doing it. So I took some time, and I didn't pressure myself to have it all figured out. The second thing I had to do was remember that I had the skills to figure it out. In 2015, we actually faced something similar. By no means was it a pandemic, but our performance we were moving to a big theater, and our performance was canceled due to a snowstorm. Actually, I like to call it the fake snowpocalypse, because a few years prior to that cancellation, Atlanta did have a major snow incident that shut down all of the roads, and the city couldn't function, and people were stuck on the highway and stuck in schools and all types of things. So in 2015, when the snow was looming, the thing that happened was that everything shut down prematurely. And our show was canceled by the theater. And so at that time, I had to find a way to get 12 dancers and choreographers back to Wisconsin. We had to reschedule the show. Dance Canvas lost about $35,000 in the process. So when I had time to really sit down and think about it, I knew that I had navigated this before. And so it wasn't as scary. By no means was it as scary. I knew that we could figure out what to do. I just didn't know what yet. And so what we did is we really looked at what we do in our mission. And our mission was to provide a platform for choreographers and give them the tools that they need for additional work in this industry. And so our focus shifted a little bit, and it shifted to really artist-centric activities. What do our artists need right now to make sure that they're okay? And what was happening was that I was having a lot of conversations with my friends that are working choreographers in the industry, and we were having great conversations about how they were navigating through what was keeping them inspired, what they were worried about. And so I thought about it and I said, well, you know, we don't necessarily have to, we could share this conversation that we're having because we're having it over coffee. Why don't we share our coffee conversations with everybody? So we did a series online called our Choreo Chat. And I'm actually going to share my screen again so that you can see one of the Choreo Chats that we have. Actually, I'm sorry. I have to pull it up in a different screen. Oh, technology. There we go. So this was one of the Choreo Chats that we had with Gier Godley, and a little excerpt. So what I did was I called up 8 of our past choreographers and I said, hey, can we sit down for coffee and just chat about what you've been doing and talk about your artistic process and what you've been doing since your time with Dance Canvas? And then I asked them if we could use an excerpt of their work. So it's not the complete work. It's about 3 minutes of their work that we've spliced together at the end of these episodes. And then I created a YouTube channel for Dance Canvas because before this, we didn't have a YouTube channel. It really challenged us to think about some of the areas that we needed to develop more as an organization. So we created this YouTube channel, and we house all of our Choreo Chat series on the channel as well. And we also, and I'm peeking in on Gier's piece because it's one of my favorites. I served as rehearsal director for his piece, so it was really a great opportunity to see him at work and catch up with him in the Choreo Chats. One of the other things we did is we had the summer program looming. So we decided that we were going to shift our summer program to focus on dance on film. And one of our past choreographers is a professor of dance, of screen dance at Bryn Mawr College and Temple University. Her name's Britt Fischel, and we hired her back to do a virtual DC Next program. And so we did the same things we usually do. We had ballet and modern classes with the students, and then they took some intensive classes on dance on film and how to create dance films. And then at the end of the time with us, we did a mini film festival that our students created work for. This is one of the pieces that was created by a student that had been with us for 2 summers, Rebecca Wu, and she's now a freshman at Northwestern University, but this is her first dance on film kind of experience. And so she had to create the film, edit the film, all of the things that were entailed with that. And they created these pieces in about 2 weeks. So lots of hard work. And these are high school and college age students that we worked with for that program. And so we actually created a YouTube channel for our DC Next program as well. And with the DC Next program, we decided that this was a really great way to engage with students from all over the country. And so this is now a regular part of our DC Next program. So we're really excited about the dance on film continuing this summer as well. In addition, we continued some programs with the city of Atlanta and did online 8-week summer program with them. And then our big thing that we did it came out of a collaborative cohort that we have of arts organizations. One of my peers, the executive director of Atlanta Contemporary, an art gallery here in Atlanta, Veronica, called me up and asked me if we would like to use their space at their art center. They have this big outdoor art, outdoor space that was basically underutilized, especially due to the pandemic. And so Veronica offered the space and said, do we have choreographers that need an outlet to create work about the pandemic, the quarantines, and actually the racial injustices in our community? And so we put out a call for choreographers, and we selected 8 choreographers that worked with us for 3 months in that program. And with that program, they created these pieces that we presented live. And it was one of the first live performances here in Atlanta. We did it back in August, and then we did it again in September. And then we actually, right now, this weekend, are doing a virtual encore of that performance with us. And, oh, there they are. Here's some of the choreographers at work at our summer residency, and you can see the space. It was this really beautiful outdoor space. And this is one of our artists, Tulani Vereen, in her performance. And so the virtual encore happens online this weekend on our YouTube channel. And we are really committed to making sure that artists are supported during this time, and finding really creative ways of telling our story and sharing the stories of the artists. Oh, so one other thing that we actually are working on this fall is that we hired a filmmaking company to do a documentary of how we survived the pandemic and how we created new work and new projects during the pandemic. And that company is going to premiere our documentary in probably December. And so one of the reasons that I decided to have this documentary team work with us is that whole other side of things, which is about staying sane in the process. I had to find ways for me to not obsess about how I was going to keep my organization functioning. As a founder, it's really a lot weighing on me about the vision and even just the legacy of this organization. So I had to take my mind off of it some kind of way. And one of the ways was watching tons of documentaries on Netflix, Amazon Prime, everything that was out there. And I realized, oh, you know what would be fun to make one of what we're doing. So we'll see how that comes out. Another thing is not being afraid of failure, because I know a lot of this stuff is just me throwing things. Is this going to work? Is this going to work? I don't know. We're in uncharted territory, but that's okay. You know, artists have a way of being innovative and figuring out how to build the skills to be resourceful during this time too. And also understanding that we're all going through this together, and it's not just my organization or my work as an artist or the artists that I work with. It's really this whole world that's trying to figure out what's next. So I'm optimistic that I'm pandemic proof. I don't know yet, but I'm excited to see where we go this season and how these new programs maybe change some of the ways we work. But it's all a work in progress. So we'll just see. I am actually gonna stop the share of my screen and ask General and Maureen if you guys are here with me and have any questions. I would love to dive into a conversation maybe about how we've navigated through.
Great. Thank you so much, Angela. That's so much good information for us to digest and process. I was taking lots of notes, and as I mentioned to you this afternoon, I'm just so impressed by your creative approach to solving these issues. And it seems that that's sort of how your whole career has gone, that you've looked for different paths and different ways to do things and created a real path for yourself. And then here you are with the ultimate challenge to even create a path on top of that and finding new things. So just noticing that choreo chats and screen dance things and all these wonderful ways of connecting will probably still carry through even when we get back a little bit more to normal. But I had a couple of things I wanted to ask you, but first was I'm curious about how you fund a lot of these wonderful offerings, and do you do a lot of grant writing? And if so, do you have some suggestions for people out there looking for more information?
Yeah, so funding of the programs is probably our biggest challenge. We are a very small organization. I am the only full-time staff member. I have 3 part-time staff that work with me on the program. So I do the majority of our grant writing. Right now, the majority of our programs are funded by the government. We are lucky enough to have local government funders, the City of Atlanta's Office of Cultural Affairs, Fulton County Arts, and Fulton County, I'll do an additional kind of shout out to them because they actually did a secondary funding stream a couple of months ago for virtual programming initiatives and funded a large part of the next set of choreo chat interviews that we're about to launch into. So we do get funding from them. We recently were funded majorly by the Community Foundation of Greater Atlanta. And they actually gave a large amount of funding to Black-led and Black arts organizations in Atlanta, thanks to some major advocacy work by Heather Infantry, an arts advocate here in Atlanta. And we also receive funding from Warner Media and AT&T, thanks to their COVID relief grants, and that paid for the DC Next virtual program and the shift that we did this summer with all of our youth programs. So the majority are through government and foundation grants. We definitely are not funded completely, and the loss of our major performances was a huge hit because, like I said before, the show in 2015, it was about $35,000 that we were out, and so this was a big hit for us. And then with no student tuition for the summer and things like that, it just started to compound. So we are very aware that arts funding and arts organizations need support during this time, just like everyone right now. So our goal is to show how important the arts are. And I think that's one of the main reasons I wanted to continue to kind of do storytelling during this period and really share the work of our artists and the stories behind our artists.
Thank you so much. I'd just like to remind everyone that's listening that you're welcome to post any questions on the Q&A option on Zoom. And I think General has a question.
Yeah, I was just listening to you, and I said, it sounds like it's necessity is the mother of invention, right? So you were talking about how you created things out of this necessary challenge and everything. And I just want to know, how did you handle the community engagement part in this pandemic situation?
Yes, that I think was the part that was the most nerve-wracking for me, was trying to figure out how to bring audiences back safely, because safety is the utmost of importance right now. And it's safety for our artists, safety for our staff, and safety for our audiences. And that's where Atlanta Contemporary was so incredibly helpful and such a blessing during this time, because the dancers and choreographers rehearsed in that outdoor space. So they rehearsed outside. We were lucky enough to be part of a study by Emory University School of Nursing, and they studied how our rehearsal process goes, our performance process goes, and our audience goes. And they gave us recommendations on how to work through this to provide safe spaces in all of those areas. And one of their major recommendations was to think about outdoor performances and the spacing of chairs, the understanding of timing, like audiences coming in, audiences leaving, disinfecting chairs and making sure they're spaced apart. Our audience sizes were only 30 people at most for the performances. And because we were one of the first performances that happened in Atlanta since the pandemic, we really did everything was trial, and there was no room for error, I want to say. So we spaced everything. We took the time to disinfect. We put our playbill online and had a QR code where people scanned it, and that way it was no touch. We also did a Q&A session, a Q&A with the choreographers, where the audience texted their questions to me, and then I asked the questions to the choreographer. So there was no exchanging of microphones with the audience. So we were really thoughtful about how we interacted to make sure that our community members were safe, and everything else was online. So that was the only thing that we've done live since the pandemic.
Thank you, Angela.
Hi, Angela. We have a question from Riley. Would you consider Dance Canvas to be a large artistic and community benefit? And do you believe Dance Canvas does more for the community in which you live, or the field of dance and choreography as a whole?
That's a great question. And I think it really hits to what our mission is. I think our mission is twofold. Our work in the Atlanta community is really important because as someone that is not originally from Atlanta, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I danced in New York and went to college in New York. And then I danced in South Carolina with Columbia City Ballet and made my way to Atlanta. I saw how I saw the need to build the dance community, help build the dance community in Atlanta, because the dance community here is a great one, and it's really strong and has a lot of new faces, but also people that have been here for years and years and years and years. Atlanta Ballet is the oldest ballet company. And so it's a rich history of dance, and it's also, in the United States, should I say. It's a rich history of dance, but it's also a place where new blood is constantly flourishing. And so I think what was happening is that the community as a whole, Atlanta community as a whole, the dance, professional dance landscape was, I think audiences needed to be familiar with what was happening in Atlanta dance. And so that's why we created Dance Canvas in the way that we did, that it's not a dance company in the traditional sense. It really is a resource and a hub to generate more professional dance options in Atlanta. So we try to be a resource for all of our colleagues in the field, because I know that collaboration and support is for each other is how we build. And so I think our dance community here and our community as a whole here is really, it's ripe to develop a really vibrant professional community that can sustain careers in dance. We just need to put more resources behind it. When it comes to dance as a whole, I think where Dance Canvas fits in is that we are a launching pad. And so we provide some of that gap where, if you remember what I said earlier, that there wasn't really an entry point for emerging professional choreographers to get their work on stage, on professional dancers, and then develop a reel so that they can then go get hired by professional companies. And what we see is that our choreographers come and work with us, and then they use their time with us to develop work that then goes on to get them work all across the country. So we have artists that we've worked with that are doing incredible things locally, nationally, internationally. And then our students too, our DC Next program, we say, our tagline is that we are building dance leaders to be successful both on stage and backstage. So our DC Next program really does send youth out into the community that are now like graduating from college. One of our students, our former students, is a dancer with Urban Bushwomen, but she also was selected to be part of the Diversity and Arts Leadership program through Americans for the Arts, and worked as an accessibilities fellow for Lincoln Center. Another one of our recent graduates is now the head of outreach for Ballet Lubbock. And we create a lot of connections. So that Ballet Lubbock connection happened as a result of kind of the work that we do all over the nation. So I think that we are both a resource here locally, but a lot of the work that we do has residual benefits to create this kind of next generation of artists that are at work all over the country.
Sorry, General, you go ahead.
I think you kind of already answered this question a little bit, but I just wanted to know what was the biggest challenge in the canceling of the performances?
I think the biggest challenge, if that was our first time being canceled, I think it would have hit me harder.
Mhm.
I think the biggest challenge for me was not failing the choreographers that we worked with for that long, because it was their first cancellation. So I really wanted to make sure that we had a plan for them. And we actually, we just announced to them what our plan was for them for the rest of this season, because we really wanted to continue to support them through this season as well, since last season didn't really happen for them. But I knew that as kind of young and emerging choreographers, and not all of them are at the same place in their careers. Some are recent college graduates, others are professional dancers that are returning to choreography. I wanted to make sure that we were providing them with the same level of support that they would have had if they had their performance. So basically what we actually did is we are gonna remount they had the opportunity to get their work in the theater on film this March, because we actually have dates in the theater already for this March. And so we're not gonna do it with audiences, but we are gonna capture it for them film-wise. I think that was our biggest. I mean, we definitely lost money, but I felt more of my heart was in how this doesn't impact them negatively.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. I was wondering, in addition to the pandemic, which is an enormous change and turning your life upside down as an artist and business owner, we also had tremendous amount of racial strife, protest, and pain, frankly. And how did you navigate all of that at the same time?
That was a so General, going back to your kind of question about what the hardest part, I think that side of things was equally hard. I find myself in a lot of rooms in the arts field as the only or one of the few people of color in the room. And usually what tends to happen in that situation is that when the diversity conversation comes up, I'm either the one bringing it up, or the burden falls on me to correct someone for saying something or provide education to someone for it. And it not only are we navigating a pandemic, but it was also that personally I was navigating through pain and feeling distressed and not understanding how to move forward in that space too. And it kills inspiration. Like, being that drained caused me to not be artistically inspired, to feel tired in the meetings, to shut down in meetings, to be on the brink of going off on people in meetings. And I can't say it's over. I actually had, when Breonna Taylor's verdict came out, like 10 minutes after the verdict came out, I had to be presenting in a session, or actually it was a radio interview that I had to get on to advertise our show. And I didn't know how I was gonna get the words out. Like, my heart was ripped out, and 10 minutes later I had to be on the radio to put a smile on and try to figure out how to, talk about people coming to see a show. And so it was almost like I couldn't wrap my head around how to navigate the relevance of what I was doing in the greater scheme of things. Because in the greater scheme of things, I felt like the most important thing is that we have to get this racial justice thing figured out. And a lot of it also spilled over into conversations about diversity in the ballet world. I have for a long time been vocal about diversity in ballet. I think we have a huge problem here in Atlanta with it. I think we have a huge problem in the world with it. As a Black ballerina, I can't believe that we're still having some of the conversations that we had when I was young and coming up in the ballet field, which happened years and years and years and years. We've been having this same conversation about, what's beautiful, what's a good fit. And it's kind of mind-blowing that that's still a conversation. And so every day I kind of had to wake up and figure out how to continue doing what I'm doing, and also if the passion was still there to continue doing what I was doing. And so I've been navigating it. I don't have all the answers. I don't have it figured out quite yet. And I take it day by day too. I have great friends that I can talk to. My family is my rock. My husband is doing a lot of work in diversity, equity, and inclusion, so I get to sit in on a lot of his sessions and learn from him. He's a consultant in that field. So I think there's a whole lot of work to do in the arts community when it comes to that. And I'm just trying to navigate whether I have the strength to be a voice, but it's always right here in my soul to be a voice.
Angela, that kind of leads into a question, another question I want to ask about. So the second part of your workshop is, and not go crazy while doing it, right? So what have you done for self-care and for yourself and to not go crazy doing it?
Yeah, that's the big question. And I don't know if I figured it out yet. No, I have let myself take off more time than I have ever done before. As you can imagine, founding an organization is you're putting in crazy amounts of hours, and I've been doing that for 13 years. So for the first time, I took time off when I needed to. When I felt like I needed a mental break, I would stop. I found new places to work. So I've redesigned my outside area, and I do a lot of Zoom calls and work outside. So I'm not in the house a lot. I think, we can't travel. Well, there's not a whole lot open or a whole lot to be able to travel to do, but my husband and I did figure out ways to get a change of scenery. We went to Florida and quarantined in a hotel that was close to a beach so that we could walk onto the beach and come, just to, again, take deep breaths with a mask on. I think also just reconnecting with people and hearing how they're doing. And I actually find the time to turn off things and find the time to kind of just, if it's a Saturday that I need off, I take it off and I don't answer the phone. I don't answer emails. And I never did that before. Things would be beeping at all hours of the night and I'd be responding. But I think I had to kind of find those moments of pause because I found myself just really uninspired and not knowing, because everything's so unknown, figuring out how to make sense out of the unknown, when things were going to open up, when performances were going to happen, how to teach via Zoom. There was just so much that was unknown that I had to take moments of pause so that my brain wasn't just always on. And then vegging out on those Netflix documentaries and things like that. I watched a chicken documentary, about a chicken contest, where it's a whole field of people breeding chickens. It was very interesting, but that's what I do. I find things that are so far outside of dance and the arts to kind of put new things in my mind so that I can get re-inspired.
But all of those things you're talking about, it really sounds like you've got that inspiration back now.
Yeah, yes, pandemic proof.
Yeah.
I am optimistic. It was funny because the documentary people interviewed me at the beginning, when we first started the documentary, and we did a final interview on Friday. And the tone between those two interviews, they even acknowledged, it hit me when I was having that conversation with them, just how now I'm a little more optimistic than when we first started. When we first started, I was I don't know how we're going to manage any of this. I don't know how any of this is going to happen. And now it very much is, well, we have a season planned. It's not our normal season, but we definitely have a season planned, and we are reaching people and we're supporting artists, and we're really, it's happening, and it's different, but it's happening. So I think that's what generated the optimism and the inspiration and that movement forward.
Thank you, Angela.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you. I was curious if you had some specific advice for students that are about to go into the world, that are seniors, and how they might approach it mentally, emotionally, and even logistically.
Yeah, that is the big question, and it was something we touched on earlier today in the earlier seminar. One of my pieces of advice, and this would be advice pre-pandemic as well, is to really strengthen your network and build your network. But one of the things that we talked about earlier in the earlier session is what I've been finding is right now is a great time to catch people um, who you might not normally have had any access to, because a lot, with everything being shut down, people have a little bit more time, and now that we can do things via Zoom, reaching out and saying, hey, could I get 15 minutes with you to grab coffee? A choreographer you might be interested in working with, a director that you would like to to be mentored by. Just reaching out and asking. And what I said earlier is the worst they can say is no, or that they don't have time. But I think figuring out ways to kind of network with people right now, where people nationally are more accessible, or at least there's more of a thought that they're accessible now because of that we can connect via Zoom. And a lot of things are online now. I'd say take the opportunity to watch as much as you can, and to see what choreographers and artists and people that you are interested in, and the work. And not only does that increase your knowledge of what's out there, but it also supports the artists that are hard at work right now. This is such an unusual time and an unprecedented time. And I can't imagine what it's like being a senior going out into the world right now in this kind of uncertain period. But another thing we talked about earlier is that these skills that you're developing and these new skills, dance on film, figuring out all of these new technologies and how to communicate and build audience online, they're all great skills that are going to be transferable once we are back to normal, or a new normal is created, or wherever we are 6 months, a year from now. So I am optimistic for you guys too, because I think that all of the things that you're learning during this time are going to be incredibly helpful as you go off into your careers.
Angela, you have given us so much inspiration and so much hope, and it has been just a delight to have you with us here in Morgantown and talking to all of our students and to our audience this evening. Thank you so much for spending this time with us, and thank you also to Maureen and to General for your wonderful questions, and just for a really delightful evening. So we're looking forward to what Dance Canvas produces next, and we're all going to keep an eye on you too, Angela, and see what you've got up your sleeve.
Thank you so much. This weekend, the virtual encore of our residency performances. But I thank you. I'm so thankful to be here. This is amazing to be with you guys, and I appreciate you reaching out.
Great. Thank you, Angela. All right, everyone, have a beautiful night. Thank you.